morning, everyone. How are we doing? I'm about to show you a little throwback that you probably did not expect to see in the year 2024 at a content marketing conference. But who remembers this film? It's amazing. Okay, we've got some Scary Movie fans here. Scary Movie actually traumatized me. And so I'm going to tell you about that if that's okay. It didn't traumatize me because it was horribly unfunny or because it was actually scary, but it traumatized me because back here, somewhere around second grade, third grade, the boy that I had been in love with since kindergarten, which is like most of my life, you know, he asked me in front of the entire class, "Hey, Latasha, what's Scary Movie rated?" Does anyone know what it's rated? It's rated R. It's rated R. I don't know why second graders were talking about a rated R movie, but we were, and that was a big issue for me because I really struggled saying that letter. Terribly. I was bullied and teased relentlessly my whole childhood for my speech impediment. And my teacher, she didn't help either. She used to do this thing. She would give me these like unqualified speech therapy lessons every time I had to read aloud in class. She'd be like, "Latasha, look at my mouth. It's R. Open your mouth this way," in front of like the whole class. It was traumatizing. So I'm going to ask you to participate if you don't mind. Can we make sure we're awake here? Say it with me. Look at my mouth. R, R. Okay, thank you. That healed a little piece of me. I appreciate it. But honestly, it really did break me down. Being taken away from my regular students, my regular classroom once a week to go into like a little mini classroom to get speech therapy once a week, it traumatized me. It broke me down to the point where I just pretty much stopped talking to anyone. I stopped talking to anyone who wasn't a close family member or friend. And I couldn't shut up though, honestly. I had to figure out other ways to tell my stories. And so about a year after the traumatizing Scary Movie incident, I made my first magazine. It was this magazine here on Black history. I made it on the family typewriter because writing was how I was able to start telling my stories if I couldn't speak. And then I got behind the camera. In high school, I took my first film class and would recruit all of my friends to be on camera and do the talking for me until I couldn't do that anymore. I got an assignment to do a self-portrait in high school, which was humiliating, but also so fun. This is basically my first vlog ever back in 2008. And then I went to school for film. Again, I stayed behind the camera as much as I could until my classmates forced me on, and it turns out I was all right, actually, reading from a teleprompter and reading the news. And eventually I'd get paid to tell other people's stories. I worked with artists and authors and tons of SaaS companies through my agency, James & Park. And somewhere along the way of building that company, I also built my own audience on YouTube, just sharing my very real human stories, flaws and all. I was able to build an audience of almost 200,000, which I say is not pretty bad for a girl who still kind of struggles to say R. Thank you. Thank you, thank you. Now, some people might say, this is kind of a new term that I see a lot on the TikTok. Some people might say that I just trauma dumped all over the stage. If you haven't heard of that term, it's according to Talkspace, it's defined as unloading traumatic experiences on others without warning or invitation. And it's done to seek validation, attention, or sympathy. I don't know, maybe they're right. But I say that I just showed my humanity, right? Maybe some of you could relate to that. Maybe some people empathized with it. Maybe some people saw something else, a struggle or an insecurity that they have and could relate. And we know as marketers, as entrepreneurs, as content creators, that this old adage really is true, right? People not only buy from people, but they trust people. We want to be inspired by people. We want to relate to people. But we know that trust is at an all-time low, actually, in the online space. There's scam after scam hitting the market, right? We've got fake news. And of course, we've got the robots taking over. So who's real? Who can we trust? Whose stories should we really relate to? Has anyone seen this on Instagram recently? This social media is fake trend? It hit my feed, and the goal of it was to showcase your insecurities, your vulnerabilities, to kind of combat the highlight reel that is Instagram or social media. And it's a little bit cringe, as the kids might say, but I took part in it. And I kind of talked about some of the struggles that I deal with as a first-generation wealth builder and entrepreneur. I talked about the social anxiety that I still have at events like this, likely due to the scary movie trauma. And after months of really struggling with the Instagram algorithm, right? What works? The reels aren't working anymore. Is it carousels? Is it personal stuff? What do people care about? After months of trying everything, this is what worked, right? You can see left to right, old school post versus this vulnerable personal post. All the numbers were up. But most importantly, my inbox was flooded. Voice notes, people crying, people thanking me for just being so real and so human. Which brings us to the robots. Now, I want to say, this is not a burn all the AI down to the ground type of talk. I just don't think that's necessary. These are some of the tools that I use every single day in my business that at least have some AI features, and there are tons more out there that I'm sure you'll learn about through the rest of this conference. But we do have to be very real about what our very human audiences are feeling right now and what they're thinking about these tools. We have to keep that in mind. And survey says they're a little bit concerned. 52% of all Americans late last year are more concerned than excited about AI. 79% of tech experts are more concerned than excited about digital life in the next 10 years. And I'd be lying if I said that I didn't fall into that second category a little bit. But what gives me some peace and gives me some hope is this. Robots don't have feelings. Yet, at least. We'll see. They don't have lived experiences that they can pull from and that we can relate to. And they don't have these original stories, these vulnerable stories, these personal stories that can be inspiring or encouraging to others. They can't stand on a stage and tell you about being in second grade and being humiliated and how that led to a successful career as a YouTuber and entrepreneur. They can't tell you about the school that they dropped out of before founding one of the world's most iconic brands. And they can't tell you about the job that they got fired from before their name, their first name alone, became synonymous with the term personal brand, right? So I stand here not telling you to throw all the AI away, but just remember that you are the story. You are what is going to power these tools, these robots that are going to amplify your message further. So I want you to tell your stories. So first up, when we think about how we're going to position ourselves and tell our stories, we want to decide what's our character arc? What role are we going to play for our audience? And I think one of the challenges I see with a lot of my clients is, they try to do all the things. There's so many different ways that we can show up, and it gets really overwhelming if we try to do it all. So figure out, do you want to be this, confident, masterful hero who just makes it look effortless and really gets people to ooh and ah over their skills and their talents? Are we the everyman? Are we humble, welcoming, familiar, just that really likable, effortless type of communicator? Are we more of a mentor or a sage, somebody who is that helping hand for those who are just starting out? Or are we the rebel, somebody who does and says whatever the hell that they want, and that's why people love us so much? One of my early content inspirations, I'm sure lots of our early content inspirations, is good old Gary Vaynerchuk, right? I watched his videos religiously when I was in college, like 2012, 2013, when this show was first starting. And I think he is a great example. This show in particular is a great example of the hero archetype. One, 2-minute conversation with this guy was like being knighted or something. It's like, you get this life-changing, business-altering advice from him. And you can see it even in these shots, how it's positioned, right? There's a table in between us. It's very authoritative. It's very much like you're stepping into his world. He establishes kind of this authority and this credibility in his shots. I actually kind of went the complete other direction when I started YouTube, and I do have authoritative content on my YouTube channel for sure, but honestly, the content that resonates the most with people, the content that builds the most community for me, is this stuff. It's like the handheld cell phone video vlog type of content where I'm just sharing my day-to-day life, the struggles I'm dealing with, the roadblocks that I'm encountering as an entrepreneur. And I like to think that makes me an everyman, you know? I'm just a normal Midwest gal who, deals with bumps along the way and tries to help bring people up with me. A great example of a mentor is a client and friend of mine, Jade, at B2B Jade on TikTok. She has gotten really good at mentoring the youth, mentoring the people who are a few stages behind her. She's got over a decade of experience in B2B marketing. And she's got a podcast and a TikTok account where it almost feels like you're on a FaceTime with her. You know, she answers younger people who are new in their industry, their questions, and just talks to them like a friend. And an example of a rebel is a gal named Eva Collins, who is fantastic. She's a former life coach turned business marketer and educator, and she calls out some of the super scammy and weird stuff that goes on in this industry, which I'm sure some of us have maybe encountered. She does it in a really thoughtful way by highlighting the ethical versions of some of the scammy, weird sales tactics and highlighting some of the creators who are doing it in a really authentic way. So, figure out how you want to position yourself and then come up with some good stories, right? Easier said than done, maybe, but you really don't need a ton. That's the thing. Truthfully, I tell the same stories over and over again. I've been on YouTube for 10 years, and I've probably got 1 million videos talking about how to get a client. That's my number one most asked question ever, is how do you get freelance clients? So repackage that, repurpose that, figure out ways to highlight other people's stories, if you can, to kind of get that repetition going, because once people start associating you with that term, freelance client, or whatever that might be for you, they're gonna remember you as the expert or as the go-to for that. I talk about my day-to-day life. Again, the good thing about this is there's a new day every single day, so there's always content. There's always something that I can share with people, whether it's a highlight, a low light, something I'm eating, or the workout that I'm doing, an event that I'm attending, right? There's always content. I talk about the things that I just talked about to you. I talk about some of the roadblocks and the struggles that I've encountered and some of the things that I've went through to get to where I am, which hopefully encourage my audience to find their own strengths from their weaknesses. And if you're struggling to figure out what are these pillars for me, what are these key brand messages or key brand stories that I really want to tell, that's where I go. I think the online world is so noisy, and it is so easy to get influenced by what we think we should be doing, or what other people are doing, or what's trending, or what the algorithm, the mysterious algorithm wants, right? Turn your phone off, go outside, grab this magical set of tools called a pen and paper. I promise you, you will get some really good ideas. And of course, we can use ChatGPT to come up with a ton of interesting prompts. We can look at our Instagram DMs to, think about what people are asking us and what people want to hear more about. But you are a creator, so start from within, start with those messages that come from within, and then use those other tools to validate those ideas and to do deeper research on those ideas. And then it's really easy. You just got to tell those stories to a lot of people. I mean, everyone sucks at this at the beginning, so just get out there, just get started. Like, that is truly the hardest part. One of my favorite things to do as a YouTuber is to go onto big YouTubers' channels and reverse search, do like the oldest to newest. And it's always really fascinating. I keep all my old videos up. They're so terrible and cringy, but I keep them up for some inspiration, and for myself, to give myself a little pat on the back. Now, another big thing that some people struggle with, I still struggle with sometimes, is figuring out where to be, right? Because there's like 1 million platforms out there, 1 million formats that we can be posting in nowadays. My recommendation, though, is to really focus on 1 to 2 to start. We can repurpose, we can amplify our message as we start to validate those ideas. But it's really hard to get good at all of the platforms at once, because TikTok audience is very different from a YouTube audience versus a podcast audience versus a blog audience, right? So figure out where you really want to be. And we can look at data like this to help us kind of get an idea of like, okay, where do I get the most bang for my buck? Where is my audience tend to be hanging out? But honestly, that's only like kind of helpful. Where I like to start when I think about platforms is here. It's like, how does it make you feel? What's the vibe of the platform? What's the vibe of your message? Think about that. Where do you really like to show up? Where do you go when you want to research something, when you want to be entertained, when you want to be educated? It's really hard to get good at something that you hate doing. And I really believe that content is an energetic exchange. If I'm standing here looking like a deer in headlights because I feel like I have to film a TikTok, that's gonna show through and people are not going to enjoy it. So start with your heart. That's my best advice, truly. How I got started as a YouTuber was as a consumer. I just liked watching, at that time, I was watching beauty and fashion videos because it was fun. I don't know, I wanted to learn some stuff. I had no idea that there was this whole industry behind YouTube. I had no idea people were making money from it. I just did it because I wanted to have fun. I wanted to participate. And I started on my Samsung point-and-shoot digital camera. Really no rules, truly, just vibes. I just kind of followed the vibes. And 10 years later, I mean, it wasn't like this simple, but I only got 20 minutes. But 10 years later, I evolved, right? I changed careers, I started doing different things, started documenting that process, making content about business and marketing, and that led me to $1 million solo online business. And I still really follow no rules, just the vibe. I mean, aside from like the IRS, I do follow those rules, but it's mostly just vibes. I do whatever I want. Whenever I start to take myself too seriously, I remind myself like, you're making the rules. You're literally your own boss. You can post whatever you want to post. So keep that in mind. And of course, I do repurpose, like I said. You know, there's a lot more platforms out there than when I first started on YouTube. So just sitting down for 1 hour a week, I get all of this content, right? I get YouTube, the podcast, LinkedIn, Instagram, TikTok, if that's gonna still be around, email, all the things. So you really can do a lot just with that, you know, those few key brand messages, those few key stories that you like to sit down and tell. Now, I'm a super introvert, but this is a superpower. This is really, really important. And if you're also super introverted, push yourself to do more of this. Talk to people. Like, the answers are often in our people. The answers are in our community, and that's really who we're creating for, and we gotta keep that in mind. So take every opportunity to talk to people as you can. Whether in the beginning of my career, that was coffee chats. You know, I'd just meet up with people in my community, or I'd meet up with them on Skype back then. Nowadays, I get on group Zoom calls all the time with my community. I go to conferences like this, take pictures, hang out, talk to people, and just hear what they're struggling with, hear what they're, you know, enjoying, what they want more of. And if you're somebody here who's a little newer, right? Maybe you don't have 200,000 subscribers to pull from and to invite on Zoom calls. You might be thinking like, Latasha, that's so much easier said than done. But we really need to start thinking about our audience as people, not as numbers. 30 people is a lot of people. I mean, I remember the first time I ever taught in a classroom or stood in front of 30 people, I was terrified. 5,000 people, that's huge. 20,000 people, I don't think I've ever talked to 20,000 people at once. 100,000 people is my hometown stadium. So, you know, keep that in mind. Quantify those subscriber counts, those follower counts. Put faces to those numbers. Are there any Michigan fans here, by the way? I don't know. I'm in Ohio, right? Sorry, I don't know. Sorry or you're welcome. I'm human, right? Sometimes we're gonna get it right or wrong. I'm glad to hear we've got Michigan fans here, so maybe I got it right, I don't know. I'm human, right? We're gonna make mistakes. We're always so afraid of being like canceled or saying the wrong thing or, you know, ticking people off. And it's like, that's just gonna happen, right? Sometimes we get annoyed at our best friend, our partners, our neighbors, right? And then we get over it and we move on. So keep that in mind that you are human. We are human. That's like a huge part of this game. This is an example of a series that I really felt called to create 5 years ago. It was hearkening back to my college newsroom days. I wanted to create a social media marketing news show for other marketers. I thought it was brilliant. People didn't. They didn't. This has like 12 comments. I'm pretty sure 6 of those are just my responses to other people. So yeah, didn't really go so well. It just wasn't fully baked. I wasn't there yet. Honestly, I think I didn't have the confidence to piss people off and to say what I really felt about a lot of these topics, so it just wasn't compelling. But then, 5 years later, I got the call to do it again. Elon Musk was doing all kinds of things with Twitter, X, whatever. Threads was coming out, and I was like, we gotta like start this again. We gotta try this again. And it worked. Like, people absolutely love this series. I get messages about this every single day. I get so many comments. This is my most popular series on the channel nowadays. And it all started because I had the ability as a human to try it again, to do the research, to upskill a little bit, to maybe gain a little bit of confidence, to stop caring a little more, and try it again. And that's the power that we have as humans. I mean, ChatGPT, it might be able to try it again if we give it another prompt, right? But it can't tap into those emotions and figure out, how does this really make me feel? What is the message that I really, truly want to tell? And, you know, allegedly, it's the biggest threat to my job, but it still gets it wrong sometimes. I mean, does this look like the Mona Lisa to you? I don't know. Thank you, wonderful humans. I appreciate you.